Hello and welcome to the second author workshop with me, Fraser, from the schools team. Last week we welcomed Ben Littleton, who wrote the Football Schools books, and we had some great questions from you guys. Today we welcome Tom Palmer, who's the writer of the Football Academy books, the Foul Play books, and as you can see, the Roy of the Rovers books as well. Tom,
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. How are we?
All right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. So, Tom, could you just tell us a little bit about your books?
Yeah, so I write a lot of football-related books. So, for instance, I've done these two series, which have been out for a while, sort of about football. That's football and general football, and that's football and crime. That one. But I also do the Roy of the Rovers books too, as you can see. And this is Rocky, who's with me. She's one of the two main characters in the Roy of the Rovers books. But I also do history books. So I've done books like books about parachuting dogs in the Second World War and other historical topics.
Brilliant. So I think what we'll do, we've got loads of questions, and once again, we've asked some of the children of Sussex to write in some questions. I've managed to whittle it down to 3, so I'll put them in between my questions, and then if you could pick them at the end, I think we're gonna send a special prize to your favourite question.
Okay.
If that's good, maybe a signed book or something.
Yeah, how about a signed copy of this maybe?
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. That'd be amazing. So stay tuned for that. And we're also going to do a bit of a challenge towards the end as well for you guys to have a go at home, which Tom can explain. So brilliant. I think we'll just kick off with the questions then, Tom.
Right, yeah.
So my first question really is, how did you get into being an author, and why do you write about football?
Good question. I struggled, and when I was young, I struggled with reading, and I really didn't enjoy reading very much. And what got me into reading was my mum getting me to read about football in newspapers and magazines and books. Eventually, and I gradually got into reading through my love of football. And then, once I started loving reading, I wanted to write as well. And I thought I didn't feel very confident. I didn't really think someone like me could be a writer, but I thought you've got to write with confidence, or you can't do it. So I thought I'm going to write about football. So I wrote these, and I think if you're not confident about writing or reading, if you read or write about what you love, it's going to give you sort of a boost of confidence. So that's why I ended up writing about football, just because it was the big thing for me. But I also loved history, and came to that when I developed a bit more confidence as a writer.
Cool. So did you read books about football? I know that when I've spoke to authors in the past, they've said sometimes there's just not enough books out there about football when they were younger. Did you find that, or?
To be honest, it wasn't really books that I was first interested in. It was newspapers.
Yeah.
It was all the newspapers, and there was, like, back in the day, the equivalent of the internet now was called CFAX. And there was loads of stuff you could read about football. I'd read magazines like Match of the Day, Shoot, and other football magazines. And then fact books, and I suppose biographies of footballers were good. There wasn't loads of fiction, but the book that really did it for me was this one, the Illustrated History of Leeds United. And then that, I really wanted to read that, and I loved it. And that, just finishing this and getting through a book that I wanted to read for myself about my favourite football club made me into a reader. And I think it's really hard if you don't enjoy reading, if you struggle with reading, it's really hard to get into it. But you don't have to read like big long books like Harry Potter. You can read sort of short newspaper articles or a match day programme from Brighton, for instance.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know when we're teaching, we use loads of different things, not just books. You can get text from anywhere, which is great. I'll give you our first question that's been sent in by Ryan, who says he loves reading the Football Academy books. So hi, Ryan. And his question is, how do you come up with the ideas for your stories?
Good question. I suppose with the Football Academy books, I'll just pick. Right. So I suppose I had a team of footballers, and I wanted to come up with ideas, and because I struggled with reading. This is about a lad called Ben who struggles with reading, and I thought I want to do a story about a boy who's struggling with reading, and it's not really working at school, and his football coach sort of steps in because his football coach is dyslexic, and he recognises Ben has some issues with reading. So that was quite autobiographical, really. But this is about a young Polish footballer. I met this lad in a library in Leeds with his dad, and he was a young footballer, and his dad was telling me a bit about how he was getting teased for his accent, having a Polish accent when he spoke. And so this is about how some of the rest of the team treat a boy who's come in from Poland. And that was very much inspired by meeting someone. A lot of the books I write, I meet people, I talk to them, and develop a story from there.
Yeah, brilliant. You know what? You've preempted my next question, which was sent in by Grace. And she says she's a huge Albion fan, so hi Grace. And she said, do you base characters on people you know? So obviously you do.
I do, yeah, definitely. And I suppose I'm often inspired by things that are personal to me. So this is about a dog that parachuted on D-Day into northern France on D-Day, and this was inspired. It's about a boy and his dog, and he finds out about this dog, and this is kind of inspired by my dog. And we got a dog, and I thought I'm going to put my dog in a book. But the same goes for this is about a girl who's a runner, and that's inspired by me doing a lot of running, fell running in the hills up north, where with my daughter. So often the character comes from someone real. And if you're with Roy of the Rovers as well, and Rocky. I mean, Rocky is she's like Roy's sister, and she developed as a character on one of the soap operas that my wife watches. Well, I suppose I watch it as well, don't I? Anyway, and she's quite a lot based on that character. She's sort of feisty, tries her best to sort of be good, but every now and then loses it. And so Rocky's very much based on a TV character. And if you're struggling making up a character, base it on someone you know, base it on someone from a book, base it on a character from a film or a TV show you watch.
Yeah, that's really good advice, I think. And I know you came up with a series of chapters, including Rocky, for last summer's Women's World Cup. How did that come about?
Great. Well, I suppose when there's a big tournament, I often work with the National Literacy Trust, and we write a live story. So I actually write it as it's happening. So, I mean, with England usually being involved in international tournaments, it's great because I'll have some of my characters will go, and they'll go to the tournaments, and they'll actually attend the games, and I write it as the tournament unravels usually. So that's really good because it's challenging because I'm writing it each night after the football games, but also it's quite exciting. It's like being on tour with one of the players or one of the fans. So that and I do it with each tournament, and it's kind of a good way of also it goes into schools, and the children vote. So you'll have 10, 20,000 children voting what they want to happen next in the story, and that's good because I think it's popular because it's live and it relates. Children will be reading the next morning about something that's happened about 12 hours ago, and I think that's why it goes down quite well.
Yeah, and I know some of my colleagues used it in schools as well, and the kids loved reading it as they were watching the matches. Yeah. It just makes it really interactive for them.
It's a bit of a horror story as a writer. It's because you're up till midnight and just trying to get it right, and it's not always that easy.
I can imagine. Yeah,
it's worth it. Yeah.
So we do a lot of teaching to boys and girls, and one thing I wanted to ask is how important do you think it is to have characters like Rocky who are female and lead characters to kind of inspire boys and girls?
Massively important. Girls and boys play football, men and women play football. There is not a large amount of children's books with girls doing sport. I mean, I've been lucky. I've managed to persuade publishers to have me doing books with girls doing football and running. But actually persuading the publishers to do that is difficult. But I think there's more now. I think there's definitely a wave of more books about girls and women involved in sport, and it's vital because when you're reading a book, you want to see yourself in the stories. You just don't want if you're just reading about one certain kind of person doing what what you want to do, you might not be as inspired. So if you mix, if I go into schools and I meet children from all over the country, often children from many other countries who've come to live in this country, I meet girls and boys and old and young, and I make sure that I put them all in my books, because I'm writing for them and not just writing about sort of one certain kind of boy character. You've got to be really broad.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I know you've done quite a lot of traveling to research your books. Have you been to any cool places in particular?
It's been ace. I suppose that is about a young Ghanaian footballer who is trafficked. So he's illegally taken from one country to another. And so I went to Ghana to watch football academies in Ghana in West Africa. But his mum and dad, the character in the story, are cocoa bean farmers. So I went to a cocoa bean growing farming area in Ghana. And this one's set in the Arctic. So it's set right at the top of Norway in the Arctic Circle. So I went up there on a boat, on a ship, and I like to, when I'm researching a book, go to the places that I'm writing about. However, it's expensive. So when I was writing these for Puffin a few years ago, I was getting quite good advances. But now, the book I'm writing now is set in the Arctic as well, and north of Russia, and I can't afford to go there because of the amount I'm getting paid to write the book. But I've applied for a grant, and a grant is when you get given money to do something special to help you with your work or what you're doing. And so I find out in the next couple of weeks if I'm going to be able to go on a ship on the northern sort of sea in the north of Russia. So if I do it, the book will be a lot better because I will have been to the place I'm trying to describe.
Yeah, so it's easier to imagine it when you come back and you write it.
Yeah, and with that, how could I possibly write about what it's like to be in a 100, 200 miles from the nearest city in a massive cocoa bean growing area with a school and with the families and the sort of houses they live in. It's not, you can look at stuff on YouTube, but on YouTube you can't really hear it and smell it and feel it. And if you actually go there, you know what it's like, and you can, when you're describing something in a story, you have to describe it through the senses. And YouTube only allows you sight, really, and a bit of audio. So visiting places is really important if you can afford it.
Yeah. It's good that you mentioned offside, because our third question is sent in from Natalie, who takes part in our Saturday soccer sessions in Brighton. So hi Natalie, thanks for watching. She loves Offside. She's actually said that's her favourite book, really? And she wants to know what the difference is between training in Ghana and in the UK.
That's a really good question. I mean, I suppose the problem in Ghana is there's sort of two layers of training. So there are some football clubs from Europe, I don't know which, but the likes of Real Madrid, etc., have academies in countries like Ghana and the Ivory Coast. And there's a really good football academy called Right to Dream, who very kindly showed me around, and I watched them training. They were training with the Ghana under 18s, and I saw lots of training, and it was great. It was really high standard. But also in countries like Ghana, there are kind of unofficial academies where young footballers go, and they're desperate to get a contract as a footballer, and they will really, if someone comes along and says, if you or I went along and said, I'm a football agent, I could get you a contract at Manchester United, Brighton and Hove Albion, Real Madrid, to name but three, then they'd be quite, a lot of them get tricked and end up coming over to Europe and they've just been cheated out of money, and they end up with nothing, and it's a massive problem. So one of the things that Right to Dream are trying to do is to do proper training, like Natalie is talking about, but also to do it in an ethical, in a proper way. And so if you're at the right academy, training is brilliant. If you're not, it's a disaster.
Yeah. So I guess we're super lucky in the UK, with especially Brighton, the things that we do at Albion Community. Some brilliant sessions, kind of open to all, but it's not like that everywhere.
No, and when I was writing this, I met a young 14-year-old player called Bismarck Boateng, and he was 14, and he had 2 football boots, one Adidas and one Nike football boots, because and at half time some of his teammates were mending their shoes to go on and play in the second half. And I met him, and he ended up because he was at the Right to Dream Academy, he ended up playing on the books of Manchester City, and he ended up playing in Norway and the United States. So it's really good to see that he, who I based my character on, ended up with a proper career as a professional footballer.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think one of the tips you've already kind of given is use your senses when you're writing, not just what you see. But what other kind of top tips would you give to anyone who's watching who wants to be an author?
I'd say definitely like read. If you read stuff, like, you can learn to be a better writer. Read anything, and if you don't like it, if, like, say you read this or this and you don't like it, work out why. What have I done it that's boring or not interesting enough or doesn't interest you? Because you can learn from reading good books and less good books, and the more you read, the better. And go to the library once they're open again, and borrow books, because books cost money, and if you borrow books, you can just read the first 10 pages, and if you don't like it, take it back to the library, and you've not lost your sort of $5.99. But do buy books as well, please. So that's important. But really write about what makes you have strong feelings. If you have something you love, like for me, football and history, or something that annoys you about the world, like global warming or stuff like that, write about what you really have strong feelings about, and that the passion that you have for your subjects will come across, and it'll motivate you to keep going as well, definitely.
Cool. You've recently released a Roy the Rovers writing kit that I know me and my colleagues have been looking at. It's really good, and we're going to use it with young people in schools.
Thank you. That's great.
How did that kind of come about? And I think you've got maybe one of the challenges that you can set to people watching right now that they can have a go
at. Yeah. So if you're writing a story about, like, take Rocky. So, like, let's take the book about the next Roy the Rovers book. I've got the manuscript here. And this is it. This is actually, it's going to be about her, and her name, Roy's name is going to be crossed off, and Rocky's name is going to be on it, and that's going to be the picture on the cover. So I had to write a story about Rocky, but I had to think about you can't just make her go and play football and win all the time. Like, so in this, she plays in 2 or 3 games, and it goes really well, and she gets up to a higher level of football in the story, but you can't make it all good. So you've got to think of other things, like, so she gets an injury, she gets a head injury, so that's your bad thing. Something bad is happening at home, her dad's not very well, and then she's having trouble with school as well. And you just got to put the good things and the bad things, so you get 3 good things that are going to happen to her and 3 bad things. And if you tear them up and put them on 6 bits of paper and put them in a different order, you can see which way the story will go. So it isn't like happy, 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 happy. It goes happy, sad, happy, sad, happy, sad, happy at the end. And people like that. Any story doesn't just have someone getting everything they want. There's things put in their way. And I find if I tear up different things that can happen to a character and change the order of them, it's a really good way of starting to plan a story.
Brilliant. It sounds a great idea. To really take the reader on a journey. Yeah, I like that. I'll give that a go myself. Okay. Next time I'm writing, I'll let you know how we get on. So if you guys want to have a go at that at home, let us know, and let Tom know how you get on our social media channels. That'd be great. Starting a story is the hardest part. So just a really simple way of planning the big events is cool. Yeah. I like that. So Tom, how can people find out more about Rocky, about Roy, about what you're doing, or about you?
Actually, yeah, I'll just a minute. You can go to that web address. So that's my website, and there's loads of free material on the website, like including the things you've been talking about, and story starters, and lots of activities that should be really good. And there's a Roy the Rovers page which has Roy and Rocky on it as well. And it's all the stuff on there is free, unless you want to buy a book, obviously. But there are actually some free books on there. In fact, those stories I've done for World Cups and European Championships that you've mentioned are all on there in the free stuff section. So you could go for that.
Yeah, brilliant. What have you got coming up then? I know you probably haven't been able to get out as much recently, but are you right? Did you say you're writing a new book at the minute, or?
I am, yeah. I'm writing a book about the Arctic convoys, which in the Second World War, we were allies with the Russians for a while, and we had to deliver them loads of stuff, but the Germans didn't want us to deliver them loads of planes and tanks and fuel, so we had to deliver it round the top through the Arctic Ocean, and that was really dangerous, and thousands of men lost their lives. And I'm writing a story about 3 young sailors who are doing that. And then I've got a book coming out in about 3 weeks called After the War, which is about 3 boys who survived the Holocaust in the Second World War, and they go to live in the Lake District in England. So they've survived the worst that the world really can throw at children, and they go to the Lake District to try and recover. And it's a story about them and their friendship. So that's the and Rocky's book, this one, is coming out. It was supposed to be out already, but it's not, unfortunately. So it'll look better than this. This is coming out in October now. So Rocky's first book. So lots going on.
Cool, lots coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, great. That's about it for my questions, Tom. So we had the 3 brilliant questions from Ryan, Grace, and Natalie. Would you like to maybe pick which one's your favourite? Who's won the signed book?
I would. And first of all, well done, and thank you for entering, even asking a question. That was really good of you. And the 3 that you asked were brilliant, and it's been really hard to choose. But I really liked Natalie's question about offside. So we've got a signed copy of Scouted, the first Roy of the Rovers book, that we can send to you, Natalie. So well done. But I think well done to all of you for asking those questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, people who sent them in. And we've got another author workshop coming up as well. So if you wanted to send in more questions for our next author, please be my guest with that one. Tom, thank you so much for giving us your time today. It's been great learning about Roy, Rocky, and everyone else.
Thank you for having me. I think I need to get a haircut like you have, because
brilliant.
Anyway, but and just to say best wishes to all your viewers and their families over the summer. I hope things go well for you all.
Fantastic. Make sure you're cheering on the Seagulls for the rest of the season as well, and into next season.
And Leeds as well.
And Leeds. Well, I'll cheer on Leeds for you as well. Hopefully they can join us in the Premier League. So. Guys at home, thank you so much for watching and tuning in, for sending your questions. Please have a go at that challenge that Tom set. I know I'll be having a go at that. And stay tuned for further author workshops coming up. See you soon.